Where does Robert Whittaker go from here? Because he was calling for a third fight. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Dana White didn't think much of it. Even though I've had a greater appreciation for what he's done, BC, I don't see a lot of people urgently calling for that. And if Izzy goes to 205, Kamaru could come up. If you're advising Robert Whittaker on his next step, what do you say?
You got to stay at middleweight because he's too small for light heavyweight, obviously. Look, you could say, really, for as close as these guys fought on Saturday night, the fact that he's that much shorter and has a length disadvantage against somebody like Izzy, who's obviously not only tall and long, but incredibly skilled and quick to go with that height and reach advantage, did a lot to keep him on the outside and not able to throw multiple shots at a time. So it's got to stay at middleweight. But Luke, it's something that he did mention after the fact when they did ask him about what's next and could you get a trilogy down the line. The only thing you can do given his age is go back, face the next top guy at middleweight, and, win as many as you'll have to win in a short period to get another title shot. And to your point, it may be Izzy again once Robert, if he does it, clears out everybody else in front of him, or it could be a completely different fighter. Izzy could very well, after this fight next against Cannonier, if they end up doing it, could move up to 205 then full-time. And I think, again, that might be the right move for Izzy, to take the time to put on the weight properly and do it, and to sort of say, look, this is chapter 2 of my career. I've more or less cleaned out middleweight. Maybe I got Cannonier left and that's it. But I think if you're Whittaker, Luke, you are still right here below Adesanya at middleweight, and everybody else is right about here, right? I mean, Whittaker, he had some close fights in that 3-fight win streak to get here, but he proved each time he's the guy in each one. He's going to have to prove it again, Luke, but I think he will, and I think that's the right mindset because he's not done competing for the UFC middleweight title. I don't think how the hell could you say that after this fight?
Yeah, I would agree. This is not Anderson Silva, Rich Franklin, right? In the rematch with Rich Franklin, Anderson wiped the floor with him, and the rematch. Well, I guess the first time was different, but in the third fight, Liddell picked up off where he did on the second fight, or these times you've had these dominant weight class guys, and then the challenger come up, like Uriah Faber to Aldo. They were just never really that close. It was never really. There was one guy who was better than the rest of the guys, and then there was one guy ahead of that. You have that dynamic. Whittaker is better than the rest of the guys and can't beat the other one. But here's the difference. Rich Franklin, as I mentioned, got run over. These other guys were never close. Dude, Whittaker was real close. Like really, really close. I know the scores don't reflect that per se, but the reality reflects that. So if I was advising Robert Whittaker, I'd be the same as you. Stay at middleweight, stay patient, stay calm. I know that's not what you want to hear, but there is, at a bare minimum, another title fight in your future in this weight class, if not the belt itself, and potentially, who knows against who. But
and just to counteract you, to come at you a little bit, you just said the scores didn't indicate that. Yeah, they did indicate how close it was. 2 of the 3 judges
49-46 doesn't indicate how close it was.
Okay, that's 1, and it's a bad scorecard. The other 2 tell you this is a 3-2 fight, which tells you that if one of those swing rounds are seen the other way.
You know what I'm saying? That there's not the kind of push based on the results afterwards, enough that the public accepts that there should be some kind of rematch. So in that sense, the scores and then the attitude don't reflect the closeness.
And I don't want to criticize Adesanya without saying the same, and I said this on CBS Sports HQ after the fight. The reason why Whittaker, again, didn't win this and doesn't have the overwhelming argument to is he also took that same chance that the judges might reward his art and craft against Adesanya when there was such little offense landing. So, Luke, if Whittaker had been busier, which Bisping and Cormier wanted him to, would you say he more than likely could have got pieced up and stopped if he was? So that was sort of the best fight he could have fought?
I just go back to it, dude. I think that cold start really hurt him. Like, can you really gripe with his performances from, again, some people might think he run one round 2, it's dicey, whatever, but can you really gripe with his performances after round 3? I don't think you can. I really don't. I don't think you can. But that cold start fucked him. It really did. And it should give credit. The hot start from Izzy absolutely was essential. Coming out, you could argue, by the way, BC, he started a little bit too hot because it gave him that advantage in the first round, but then he kind of faded down the stretch. But it was crucial in how the fight was defined, at least according to the judges, that he came out. I think we shouldn't lose sight of that. He came out really hot, dropped him, and that might have set the intellectual tone or however they were perceiving it for the entirety of that fight, at least up until the 5th anyway. So,
and as much as I want to say Izzy wasn't busy enough to fill everybody's argument, through 2 fights, he's proved he's the better fighter. There's no question about that, which is my point of saying, had Whittaker been busier, I think he gets stopped. So I think he fought really the perfect fight to have an argument. But even if we say, negative things about Izzy, he's the better fighter through now nearly 7 full rounds against one another. That's why, you can't gripe about him surviving and advancing at the end.
That's right. I mean, this is the wake-up call to everybody. It's like, dude, Robert Whittaker had basically 7 rounds. 7 times he got to come out from the back of the corner. Obviously, the first round doesn't, count exactly that way. But 7 times, are you ready? Are you ready? Go. Right? He's had that, and he couldn't get the win. And again, I feel like Adesanya is the rightful winner from Saturday. But the wake-up call, the lesson here is, okay, let's say, obviously, Izzy won the first time. Totally fair. Second time, very, very close, at a bare minimum, very close. But the lesson here is like, dude, look at the ground that Whittaker gained on him and what he had by the end of that 5th. The way in which Adesanya competes is overwhelming for some, but for the right kind of operator, they can read all the patterns because it's kind of focused on 2 dimensions of the game. There aren't these other threats. I really think that's going to be something you're going to see people take advantage of if some of those things don't change on Adesanya's end going forward.
Final question. Do you think Jared Cannonier, Sean Strickland, Paulo Costa, anybody else in the top 10 who's hoping to get either their first or another chance at Izzy, do they exit 271 more confident in their chances?
I think we'll talk about Cannonier in a second. I definitely feel like he likes his chances. Now, you could say that's delusion. You could say he's right, but Cannonier is going in there to win whenever they fight, and I don't think there's any debate about that. But I also feel like whoever these guys are, you're going to all have to see Robert Whittaker eventually, and
yes,
good luck. You're going to need it.